Google, of course, what town that was in. So I think you should be stoked that I realized it was Union, New Jersey. I was going to guess Cranford because my friend lived in Cranford. I think his mom worked there, and that's the only thing I know about Kane University, not Keene.
Dude, just getting the pronunciation is good enough for me. You know,
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Soccer Wise. David Goss, Tom Bogert here. Tom, did you want me to warn you that I was going to play the intro song? Did you want me to give you a warning that we were going to start?
I don't know how long we're doing this fake cold open thing. You just are going by hitting live on different things at the same time, and then it's either dead space on YouTube or Twitter or the podcast recording or something. No, I thought we were just still talking.
Tom, we're always just talking. I was told you were going to be sitting and hanging out and playing FIFA the whole show. So I didn't even realize we were really like calling it a show.
I'm a big professional, so I'm doing this. But for those wondering that, FIFA doesn't come out until tomorrow, well, technically it doesn't come out until next Friday. But if you get a different version of the game, you can start playing it tomorrow. Well, there's an internet glitch that if you set your Xbox location to New Zealand, you can play it now because it's tomorrow in New Zealand because they're time travelers. I've resisted that for so long because I was like, all right, I don't need to do this. But now, like in adulthood, when free time's at a premium, I was like, you know what? I don't have much to do tonight. I would really like to play FIFA. I asked one of my friends, is the New Zealand thing still a thing? He goes, hell yeah, it is. And so I can play FIFA.
Probably wouldn't have just said that out loud.
Do you think that I'm going to get charged with something? Like, this is like a known thing. Like,
I don't know that you're going to get charged, but I do think that you got to think an organization like EA has like fixers and people around the world that could sort of
if EA Sports
take
is
care
listening to this,
Sponsor
DM
us.
me. Yeah, because I'm constant opportunities here.
Yeah, we're in. We are happy to play the game however you'd like us to play and get us involved. But Tom, thanks for being a professional. I appreciate it.
Welcome, guys.
It was a big professional night for both of us, a Wednesday night of MLS action, which meant that I went to sleep with 5 minutes to go in the final Western Conference games because Portland's ahead 4-2. LAFC are not going to score. Austin are not going to score. Seattle's up 2-1 on San Jose. You know what? The eyes are shutting. I'm done. I'm out. Little did I know when I woke up, it turned out Seattle was like, you thought we have one more mistake in us to let San Jose back in this game. So congratulations to Seattle for faking me out. They accomplished exactly what they wanted to do. Is that your Seattle mug?
Yeah, I was going to take a picture of this when I was pouring the coffee and send it to our good pal, producer Anders of Extra Time on Apple TV, the big Seattle Sounders fan that he is, and say, hey, man, I got, I turned off the game in the 87th minute. They were beating San Jose. They obviously won, right? Like, celebration mug, just to see if I could cause a meltdown. And I decided I wasn't going to do that.
I think that's really kind of you, and I think that's really mature of you, Tom.
Good karma.
Good
We're
karma.
back to zero for the New Zealand thing, and now me not being mean to Anders. Just the absence of being mean is kindness.
It's kindness when it comes from Tom in New Jersey. Tom's River, New Jersey. Is that not where you're from?
It's not close to it. That's like
it.
25 minutes, 30 minutes.
That's not that far.
That's right.
let's
in
not
my
do
head,
a
it's like,
performance.
I know we're speaking to a national audience here. Nobody knows, but like that was a team that I played plenty growing up. So
Got it.
My initial like, no, that's not it. Like,
Yeah, that's not me.
stiff arm that away. One of my
Right.
close friends now that lives near me, like playing against him since we were both 7, and like, just don't want to hear it.
Nice. Okay, well, if you were from there, you'd be Tom from Tom's River, which I'm sure
I'm not,
no one
but I'm
has.
not, so.
No one has thought of that, and I'm sure there's no Toms there as well. All right, we're gonna run through our midweek of MLS action, topsy-turvy. We've got our segments that we like to hit every single time we come out of a match day, and then we've got another weekend of MLS action coming up. So hot and heavy here. That's why we are here on
stops.
Soccer Wise. It never stops, and we never stop, and we are here for all of it. So the Discord was on fire last night, just sitting on the couch watching games. And what's fun about it is you have so many fans from so many different parts of the world. And so there's like emotion from everyone and then like neutral memes from everyone else. It's a really fun place to sit and watch games. So if you want to be a part of it, join our Patreon, subscribe, and then you get access to our Discord. We are sending out t-shirts to all of our original MVP founders that we have. I believe ours are in the mail as well.
I thought we were getting skipped.
No, so we are going to be sporting them. We do not have extras to sell. We are working on the store right now. So you can buy them if you are not a subscriber, but get into the Patreon, and that's how you get early access to things like that, as well as to our depth charts, which are clean and tight right now because we got our second release of the year from Major League Soccer officially of the roster designation. So if you haven't looked at these, you can go look at them. If not, we are putting all of them into our depth charts, which have depth charts for every team, as well as roster designations for the players and salary cap tables, which shows you the length of contracts, how much players are making, how much they take up. There are some cool things in there that MLS is putting out. Kudos to the people in MLS PR who are working on this. This is the type of thing that real leagues have, so that real leagues can be covered. It is really nice to see Major League Soccer start to enter that sphere. Would like to see a little more from NWSL, but I get it. And we are getting there. We didn't get the salary releases with that. That's done by the MLS Players Association, which is separate. So those will be updated in the depth charts when the next release comes out.
That'll happen before decision day. I don't know if it's like imminent or like a month from now, but like that will happen over the next month. Like this is the time of year that MLSPA releases the data again.
And for the most part, most of what we have in there is accurate because it's only players who have signed new contracts or new players who have arrived in the summer that will be affected by that.
And like a small thing, a lot of these new contracts, like you do it now, like it starts next season for the most part, just because of the way that the salary cap for every team, all of the dollars are budgeted. Plus, like it's prorated, and that if you sign, like instead of it being like if let's say the 600,000 like is your new salary, you're only getting half of that for half of the season. So players like they'll just all right, we'll do it for the full year starting next year. So for the most part, everything is pretty correct on that, and we'll see what some of the new signings are.
I missed this over the course of me moving, and so I noticed it today. Yeah, I noticed it today while I was looking through things. I think it's cool, but I'm curious what other people think. Teddy DiPietro signed a new contract with DC United as a U22 initiative player, which allows the teams to pay them an increased level. We have seen a couple of these. The Io Akinola one, I think, was the first one. TFC did it, blew up in their face, obviously, along with...
The Galaxy are at the forefront of this as well. With Julian Alvarez, good. For Alvarez, bad.
Yes.
It allowed them to keep those players. Like, they sold out for Alvarez for money. Like, they could have gotten more before that, but, like, this is a way that I would like to see the U22 initiative be used as, like, a confluence of, you know, bringing in new talent, but also paying your best homegrown players to keep them there a few more years. Like, that's how Cade Cowell, because, like, the earlier and earlier these deals are signed, these players are getting to their second contract, 18-19, which is awesome, but then makes it difficult if they're excelling to give them a pay raise, to give them the correct pay raise that is fair, and makes it worthwhile for them to stay in MLS rather than force their way out immediately. And you look at Cade Cowell, I know that he's not the beacon of player development in this league just because of it. He stagnated for a little bit, but, like, he got to work through that. He still got the money that came from that contract, still got the transfer to Chivas, and now he's doing better with Chivas. So player development is not linear, and any chance that a young player has to get a nice little pay raise, U22 initiative would help, and I like that a lot.
So you're a fan of this, because I wonder if there are fans out there who will say the flip side, which is, like, shows a lack of ambition to not bring in a new player from outside the club.
Yeah, I understand where that argument is going, but, like, Julian Alvarez was I think the better one for the example that I could have used. Is that, like, he was a really good right back in MLS in, like, those last
Julian
years. Like,
Araujo, by the way.
Did I want to say Alvarez? Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, Julian Araujo, like, he was very good. And, like, he wouldn't, like, I don't know if they would have been able to keep him much longer, or, like, what would have happened if they weren't able to do that. Or, like, I know, like, we're talking about strategy and business and salary and all that stuff. Take a step back. Doing the right thing. This player is vastly outperforming his contract. We have a way to pay him that won't screw up the rest of our roster. Do it and keep the player happy and show everybody that we want to do the right things at this club. So for me, like, I think it'd be lacking ambition if you did 4 homegrown players if you do the
interesting,
4-2-4-2. But, like, I'd rather re-sign a known commodity, somebody that I brought through, somebody that has proven themselves in MLS, than go to Uruguay and spend $4 million on a player who might not work out.
And this scenario with DiPietro, he is 22, so it's going to work out really nice in that it's a 2-3 year deal. Like, he's going to be in his prime on a deal that doesn't hit the cap fully. He is also probably not a player that you're looking at a big number to sell. So he's probably, when you assess your academy and say, like, these are Matai Akinbone should be sold, right? The rumors are already there to a point where, like, when you assess your academy, you say to yourself, okay, this is a player we're going to make money on, and then this is a player that we want to be part of our core. You go back 10 years, this is the type of mechanism that a Seattle would have used for Jordan Morris, and Christian Roldan obviously was drafted, but nowadays he probably would be an academy player. For those types of players to be a part of your core and then be able to build out the spots around them. So I agree with you. It's obviously case by case. I think this is a really nice use of it. Shout out to Kuti Pietro because he's been really good. And shout out to DC United for trying to fix some of this because they are a mess in the way that they have handled their academy and their view in the market. And it's one of the big soccer markets. It has gotten better. Like the fact that Christian Fletcher signed with them at all shows that it's gotten better. I think they handled Griffin Yao actually pretty well. Like it's what's been best for his career, which wasn't being at DC United, but like that's part of it. Obviously, Kevin Paredes, they handled pretty well. So there's better examples now over the last few years of this going forward.
My only quibble with the Griffin Yao stuff is the behind the scenes story of that was not this
fair,
heartwarming thing. Like they had to. There was a lot of pushing just to get him to Westerlo, somewhere where he was going to play, and it wasn't. It was there was an agreement, and then somebody else came in and said, no, like we're not good with that deal. So like it was a very convoluted negotiation for a player who wasn't playing for DC United, who ended up leaving for. I don't know if it was free, if it was close. Like the whole point of that deal was to get a sell-on percentage,
right?
And like it did not need to be that complicated.
Love those
previous
sell-on
regime
percentages. Though. Yeah, previous regime. Love those sell-on percentages. And we continue on. So if you like what we're talking about right now, if you're interested about it, jump into the Discord. You can chat with us. I'm going to start tweaking our mailbag. Instead of having it come out every Monday with our weekend recap, I think we're going to restructure our shows. And we're going to do a Monday weekend recap that I'm going to get to you earlier that's a little bit cleaner and more concise. And then a longer mailbag episode that can come out on Fridays. And we might start to sprinkle in some interviews with that. But if it's a question like that hits something that interests both of us, we'll do it on this show as well. That you can only send us through Discord, or you can chat with us in there, and we can talk about all of these things as things go along. It's been really, really fun there, as well as those depth charts, which you can get, which I will be using very often throughout this show. Let's dig into our midweek recap. We start every time with our best match. Tom, I previewed it on Tuesday by saying the top two teams in our watchability rankings are facing off, the LA Galaxy against the Portland Timbers, and they delivered. Let's go. Defending, optional. Attacking, elite. Top tier number 10s on their game. You add in a chance to yell at the referee a couple times, a good atmosphere, a good crowd, and this thing delivered. Portland Timbers, a 4-2 win. After the goals, this is from the MLS Comms Twitter handle. After the goals from Evander, which was two of them yesterday, Felipe Moore and Jonathan Rodriguez, the group of Timbers teammates is the first trio in MLS history to each score at least 14 goals for one club in a singular regular season. And they are in 8th in the Western Conference. That's your watchability right there.
That was incredible. I'm glad that you brought up the atmosphere as well, because this is a Wednesday night game in September, right? Like, shout out to the Portland Timbers fans. Like that place, like felt like it was a big game, and they made it feel like a big game. So I was really glad about that. Thank you to the teams for putting out strong 11s, because as the lineups were rolling in for the 7:30 and then the 8:15 game, there was a whole lot of rotation. I was like a little bit worried. I was like, oh man, I was really looking forward to Houston, Vancouver, and LA, Portland. What if they're gonna go full rotation? They didn't. This was a super fun game. It was a pretty clear letdown spot for the LA Galaxy after their huge win against LAFC on the weekend. So this was a good time for Portland to get them, Portland to get them at home. I want to start with Portland, then we'll get to LA Galaxy next. But this was everything that is right about this team. This is the most optimistic view of this team. Evander is playing at an MVP level. He's one of the best players in the league right now. Jonathan Rodriguez has been phenomenal for this team. Felipe Mora has been healthy and very good. And Santi Moreno is like low-key like their fourth attacker. Now it's crazy, right? Like this was everything that this team could be, and I think that they will be going towards the playoffs. I don't know how dangerous that makes them because of the defensive deficiencies, but this is a very good team. Think of that first goal. Jonathan, it was a headed clearance by Maxime Crépeau, sweeping the keeper all the way off the line. Jonathan Rodriguez,
wild headed clearance,
like phenomenal.
A center back moment where he like was 45 yards off his line, tracking a ball that's like slowly looping towards him.
Had disaster written all over. And then so Rodriguez brings down the ball, sprays it wide to Evander, and if you watch that highlight, like I was kind of tracking Rodriguez on that rather than following the ball because I was curious, is he going to go to the back post? Like Evander can hit him wherever he goes. Like the run will dictate what the pass is. And he kind of faded out and then made a really hard run between the center backs and timed it perfectly in an incredible ball by Evander and a beautiful, like that goal in and of itself. Like that's not a lot of combos in this league can do that goal. Like this Portland Timbers team, this was a phenomenal performance. A game that you really want to have if you're them, again, for all the reasons of at home, midweek, Galaxy coming off this huge win over the weekend against a rival, so they should be in a letdown spot, and Portland Timbers took advantage, and it was just, again, I can't say enough good things about the Portland Timbers and that attacking quartet.
Evander had this, and it's been a weird few weeks, right? Evander kept himself out of training, apparently wanted to transfer, apparently didn't want to transfer, but his team/management wanted him to transfer. It's been a weird couple weeks. He had this air about him on all the goals he scored where it was like so easy that he was annoyed that he scored them and like turned around and walked back to midfield. There was this like vibe of him looking at the Galaxy being like, you made me do this to you. And like I'm not saying he's unhappy because he's done this in the past, and there are other times where he scores and he's like super excited. Yeah. He has celebrations and all of that. But there was just like, there was so many chances in this game for both teams that every time Portland scored, except the first one, which was the breakthrough, and it was, as you talk through it, it was like not the easiest moment. It was this like, finally, we put that one away. I can't believe we haven't put one away already. Finally, we scored that. And Evander, he's, I talked about him last year saying like this guy has a ton of stuff to his game. Mm-hmm. The first thing that pops out is his size and strength. And like as a 10, it's hard in Major League Soccer to hang in the game. It's hard to show all the skill things you have because you're going to get physically dominated. He doesn't do that. He physically dominates. Then he's got touch. He's got vision. There's just those little moments, stuff we started to see from Moranchuk this week of like, oh, there's a 4-yard pass. I'll just clip it because it makes it easier for me to like lift this ball. Yep. And it's effortless for me, so it doesn't really matter. Or I'll just make sure my entire body's facing right so that every time I cut the ball back to the left, no one knows it's happening and no one sees it coming. There was a few moments where you see like opening up the hips and you're like, I know exactly what's about to happen, and it's not what happens. He was on point. He was on fire. And as you said, this is all the good stuff with Portland. Like, this is what they're capable of. This is what they do. But they get up 2-0, and then they don't see it out confidently or comfortably, and they have to keep scoring. To their credit, they at least understand that to this point of like they don't try and sit in and win the game. They bring on Anthony. They bring on, more attacking pieces. They bring on Eric Williamson, and they continue to push, and they get the fourth goal to make it 4-2. And it secures probably their spot in the postseason with the gap right now.
Absolutely.
Between the last playoff line in the West going down. But they are like, they're going to have to go on the road. Yeah. They're going to have to win some gritty games. I don't know that they're capable of it. At this point of the season, you can't see a situation where it's like, oh, they can flip the switch and go in to a tight defensive block and they can see out a 1-0 or a 0-0, to get to penalty kicks on the road in the round of whatever with 87 games in series and the NLCS, whatever you want to call it, going forward.
So one thing that I loved as like an overarching theme of this game, this felt like international soccer in the best way, and that it felt like all vibes. And I don't mean that to be dismissive to Vanny and Neville, but just like how end-to-end it was, how many turnovers there were kind of in like the middle third, and how disjointed both teams looked. And my favorite part, how much both teams immediately, let's go forward. Like, let's take advantage of this. That's a scramble defense. Let's take advantage. We don't need to put our foot on the ball and go left and right and sideways and take our time. That was just vibes. It was like, like all the memes on Twitter of like, oh, game's gone, mate, game's gone. Where's the game gone? Game's gone, mate. This was the opposite of that. Game's back, game's back. I was looking to find like one of those videos of like, oh, game's back, but I don't think that those exist yet. Hopefully the game will be back soon. But that was exactly what I like. Perfect. Just chef kiss. I don't have a great point of analysis. I just wanted to point that out and have that on the record because it made me very happy.
I want to give you a shout out because you put out a piece at Give Me Sport talking through some underlying numbers and like what's going on in the league. And what's super surprising about it is it's a lot of like top XG, overperforming, underperforming. I just read out that fact of like Portland's the first team with 3 players to score 14 goals. They are not anywhere. None of them are on this list. Like, they are playing exactly who they are, which is they create a ton of chances and they give up a ton of chances, and they sit right there. It is like a fascinating team to watch.
What was your favorite part of that story, or what was your favorite line off this?
I liked it when you wrote it. I thought it was sick when you wrote it and then someone was like, "Papa," and you were like, "Patam," and then you said "Pachang," and then you threw it in their face.
So we have to talk about Evander in the MVP race. Right now, he's leading MLS in combined goal contributions, 32, 14 goals, 18 assists. Lucho Acosta is number 2 at 29 right now. Messi and Chicho Arango, 28. Denny Boanga, 26 and 5th. Phil Neville, after the game, he said, I've said it since probably the first month of the season. I think he's the best number 10 in the league. People laughed at me. People questioned me. People thought I was joking. Not joking now. Like, this dude, my problem with potentially voting him as MVP, and again, like, I'm going to think deeper about this as we get towards the end of the season, plus see where everything shifts. Can you vote a player for MVP for the team that's sitting in 8th place in the Western Conference? I don't know, but it's not his fault that they've conceded 50 goals. Like, he's been incredible, so I don't know how to, like, parse that away. Goss, like, where is your head at in the MVP race, again, and particularly with Evander?
So, last year on Extra Time, I titled Evander the 2024 MLS MVP finalist Evander.
You did.
So that's where I stand, clearly, because I can't come off it now when he's putting up the stats.
You're really funny.
And he's getting there. 2, Phil Neville. When you say, I said this in the first 10 games and people laughed at me, that's fine. But when coaches and GMs and CSOs are like, if you come out and you're like, oh my God, I'm trying to think of someone right now because there's no Americans on this team. Because I was going to do the, like, when coaches come out and they're like, why is so-and-so not in the national team? When they clearly shouldn't be. And then 6 months later, they have a point and they're like, why is no one listening to me? It's like, because you lied before. If you are the boy who cried wolf, then yeah, we don't really care what you say. Spoilers, Phil Neville's going to say his guy is the best in all the positions at all the times and that his team is the best. And that's what you're going to get week after week. So awesome.
He did it with Rodolfo Pizarro and Gonzalo Higuain. He did the opposite. He challenged them. He's like, they need to be better.
Yeah, well, they did need to be better because they sucked.
That's, again, another obvious case. Sure,
yes.
Fair. You can point that out. But, like, he's always got his guys' backs, but, like, he's pretty honest in these press conferences and, like, knows how to put, like, I don't know. I think that he's done a very good job this season, and I think that he has merit here because, like, he has been saying this since the beginning. Like, the difference between this and Miami was, because, like, I was on a lot of those press conferences because it was super interesting to me. It wasn't Pizarro is going to be one of the best 10s, and Higuain, it was they need to be for us to be good. It was, like, a careful consideration. He was challenging them. Like, with Evander, it was, no. He, like, I've had several interviews and conversations with him. He's like, this is one of the best players in the league. So, like, he has been saying that since day one. And you're right. It's obvious that that's what he's going to say. But I do think that, like, the way that he kind of shifted the framing of that versus when he was in Miami, like, I think he deserves fair credit on that end.
And I thought he did a good job in Miami. I mean, the whole thing,
I do too.
I called Miami a fever dream on Tuesday. We're going to talk about them in a moment again. Like, just like nothing about that is a real conversation to me because it's so far outside the realm. Like, yeah, sorry, Phil Neville, I thought you did a decent job. Your team made the playoffs the next year. Your team was going to sign the greatest player of all time whose friends were going to come play, maybe for free, maybe for a ton of money. We're actually not really sure. So, like, just do that. That whole thing was weird. So I think that's fair pushback. The whole, like, can he win in 8th? No, he can't. He can't because there are players who are close to him. Like, if he was double Lucho Acosta, right? If everything that he was doing was outside of the realm of what everyone else was doing, then yeah, fair. If you score 40 goals and your team is terrible, you're probably going to be able to win an award. I don't think that that's the case with this. And I don't think it's tough to be like, oh, well, you should make them better, right? Evander, why are you not doing more against the ball? Why are you not helping your team? Like, there is really only so much he can do.
Honestly.
But I think there's a chance that this team could make a playoff run, and, like, it doesn't affect your MVP because the voting will have already occurred, but it would affect the way you assess the end of this season and the rest of what happened for this team. So as we do on every show, we bring up a new player on SoccerWise, and we say, can X player be an MVP? And that is our headline, and that's our social clip. So thank you, Tom, for getting there early today.
All right, and then let's go to the other side. What did you make of the LA Galaxy's performance here?
Oh, you're asking me?
I am.
What I think.
I am. I want to hear it.
Let me offer a mea culpa, which is a new segment you created on the last show, where I was challenged saying you didn't believe in the Galaxy at the beginning of the year. what do you think now? And I said, I won't back down. We're not going anywhere. I'm sitting right here. And this was the problem, right? This game was indicative of what it is. It is now 2 games in which they've conceded twice in the first 20 minutes of the game, and they have a ton of capability to come back. I thought they were going to tie this game 3-3. The way they played to close out the game, the chances they were creating, I thought Payne-Still was really good coming back into the team. I thought they looked dangerous for large segments of that second half. It's why they're competitive. Columbus has proven that in the overarching scheme of big games, they will come back and win. We haven't seen that from the Galaxy. So I am going to question this going into the postseason no matter what because of this deficiency and their inability to control the game from the beginning to the end and dictate terms completely in a way in which they dominate the portions of the field they want and can cut you off. They need to dominate the ball. They need to play the way they play to succeed. I don't know the ceiling on that right now because it hasn't been proven in big moments, and it hasn't been proven that it's the way to win in Major League Soccer outside of one team one time.
Yeah, this was a really bad Riqui Puig game. He did kind of all of the bad habits of drifting out of the tactical structure, losing the ball in bad spots, and losing the ball in bad spots on like high risk, low reward passes. I didn't keep a tracker on how many times he tried to find like Mark Delgado in the pocket of like a chipped ball between 2 midfielders who were paying attention and could feel where Mark Delgado was with a defender on his back. So even if you kind of slip it through, then what? He takes a touch backwards and passes it back to a left back. And those are prime transition moments. And because Riqui Puig is dropping deep, Delgado's trying to fill the space forward where Riqui Puig should be. So when Mark Delgado loses the ball, Mark Delgado's the one who's blowing up the transition opportunities. So this was just every bad habit that Riqui Puig has, they were on display here. There was several moments where again, all the dropping back, and he would be trying to dictate these 1-2s where it wasn't on, and he has this gravity to him. Again, and mostly in a good way. When it's on, it's great, where he's just pinging, he's just running around the field doing 1-2s. Where it's like, yeah, man, Maya Yoshida can complete a 10-yard pass. You don't need to go stand next to him. Like, you can just drift the other side, right? And, like, there was a few where, like, Mark Delgado was, like, forcing it back to him, or John Nelson was trying to force it back to him, because if they try to have their own, decision-making and pass somewhere else, he screamed at them.
Yeah.
So this was a really bad Riqui Puig game, and that is what is central to all of the questions against the LA Galaxy. And I think this showed, like, Marco Royce is much more important in this team than I thought he was going to be when they signed him. And my last point here, Greg Vanney in his post-game press conferences, I think he summed it up the best, so I'm just going to throw it over to him. Greg Vanney, what he was asked is this was a reality check for this team. I don't know if it's a reality check. I think everybody understands the challenges of this league and competing on the road, and they're a good team. We create our own problems with how we lose the ball and rushing and forcing attacks and things that don't need to be allowed. We need to allow ourselves time to develop. And he's spot on. Like, a lot of those errors were more unforced in the sense that, like, you didn't need to try that 1-2 at midfield under pressure. You could have kept the ball, and then you're giving Portland transition opportunities, which they were gladly taking. And I know Portland gave it back to the Galaxy later in the game as well, but they were the architects of their own demise here. And anybody that's in your camp of, I don't think they're a serious playoff team, a serious contender in the Western Conference, this is the game you point to, this is the tape you point to. And I don't think that they are this bad, but this is the worry that this could show up in a playoff game. They could play the Portland Timbers in round 1 of the playoffs. Like, this could happen again.
Yeah, true. I think if you're the Galaxy, you look out on the rest of the day and you're like, oh, the reason we would is because all of these other teams are also struggling, which is my other point in that game. But I completely agree with you. And I think for Greg Vanney, like, that's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is individuals. I will say this. You mentioned Maya Yoshida. Shout out. He had a moment in the second half where he went up for a set piece, and I think he felt like he got fouled. And he turns around to jog back, and he's just eyeing whoever it was. And they finally turn around, and he goes, don't do that again. Like, super calm serial killer level, which is what I do. And he was just like, don't try that. Don't do that again. And I was like, yes. Thank you to Maya Yoshida for handling his business on that one. Best match of the game goes there. Biggest win for the playoff push. I think this one's pretty obvious to me. The Philadelphia Union knocked off NYCFC 5-1 on Wednesday night. The Philadelphia Union scored 5 goals against a playoff team. Only their second win against a current Eastern Conference playoff team this entire season. They put it in a 5-1. It moved them, I believe, into the postseason, right? I'm reading this correctly?
Yep.
They are currently the 9th
DC.
place team in the Eastern Conference. They sit 3 points behind Toronto with a game in hand, and they are tied on points with DC United, but have the tiebreaker over them. Philadelphia, resurgent. I talked about it on Tuesday. No one's going to want to play this team in the playoffs. They are now a playoff team. And I can't even think of a bigger performance. Ty Baribo's hot. He's feeling good. The rest of this Philly team feeling good. A couple gifts from NYCFC, but you got to be there to take advantage.
And Philly tried to give a couple gifts back that NYCFC refused to take. This, man, I think that this says more about NYCFC. This was just really, really bad, disastrous from NYCFC. Philly played really well. All credit to them. The frustrating part of this Philly team is this was supposed to be the team that you know what you're getting. You know what they're really good at. You know what they're bad at. You know what they're trying to do. You know how, the conceits of the game where they'll be at their best or at their worst, right? We are supposed to know all of this. We don't. This team just shows up inconsistently week after week. They were awesome last night. And then, they were awesome in Leagues Cup. And then before that, it was just weird, inexplicable individual mistakes or collapses at the end of the games. I don't know what to make of this Philadelphia Union team because are they going to replicate this on the weekend? I don't know. They've been so inconsistent. And their best quality is that everybody below Columbus sucks in the East.
Yeah.
That's their best quality. As you say that, the nobody wants to play them trope that I hate, that works. Are they better than the Red Bulls, NYCFC, Charlotte, Toronto? I think so. They could be better than Orlando. Orlando just beat their first playoff team of the season last night. I have no idea what to make of 4 through 15 or however many teams are on the Eastern Conference right now, other than a couple of the teams all the way at the bottom are really, really bad, and then the teams between them are, kind of bad, mostly bad. I don't know.
Let's dig into the sort of bad, mostly bad situation. For NYCFC, this is 8 matches without a win in a row. Ugh. This match against Philadelphia was against the teenage goalkeeper with Andre Blake out and with Jack Elliott suspended, had Nathan Harriel at center back, and then the new Haitian international that they signed to be defensive midfield is still injured, so Leon Flock gets the start in there, which I think is fine. That's what was on the board for NYCFC. Playing a home game, get yourself right again. Nick Cushing said before the game, we're just 1 win away. The next win, it's all going to start rolling. We're playing good soccer. The results are not there. You have now not won a match in 8 games. So their saving grace right now is that Charlotte's the team behind them, and you just mentioned Charlotte's bad as well. And no one wants to move up the playoff standings, and everyone's tripping over themselves to not get there, except for Philadelphia. This NYCFC team, though, it has gone wrong in a lot of different ways over the last few years. This one feels different to me.
Yeah, so for me, it's the next one. Oh, we're playing well. Dude, he's been saying that since Tati Castellanos left. I'm sick of hearing we played fine, we just need another win. Dude, you are who you are at this point. The grace period is gone. The NYCFC fans were pushing out at the beginning of the season. He righted the ship. Things were going better. And now they're firmly back into pushing out all this stuff. I don't blame them. In that mid-range in the Eastern Conference, this is from Tom Posting DOS. License to post is how I call him. He sent me his own tweet that is really good. Since June 1st, there have been a total of 37 games that NYCFC, the Red Bulls, and Charlotte have played. They have combined picked up 41 points. Slightly better than 1 point per game for the teams that are allegedly, had been 4, 5, 6 in the East, to the point where now Orlando is up there. Orlando, remember how bad they were at the beginning of the season?
Yeah.
They were dead on arrival. This is, it's, I don't know how many other ways to talk about. Again, we could get into tactics. We could get into game states. We can get into, maybe this, if this, whatever, right? I feel disingenuous if any conversation goes longer than, yeah, but they're probably bad. Or, they're not good enough right now. And, it's like that with the Red Bulls, NYCFC, Charlotte, and everybody on down.
So, for NYCFC, I think there's a few things going on into, the stat you're talking about. I think part of it is they're really young. So it's hard to have consistency and be okay, we're up and down. These are the guys we lean on. The other thing is we got a message from someone when we did our underrated best 11 last week where I think we chose 2 NYCFC players to put into the team. I think it was Matt Freese and Alonso Martinez.
I stand by that.
And someone said, are they the most underrated team? No, the problem is they don't have star players for those players to lean on. Like, the question in the whole underrated combo is like, you talk about some of these teams and some of these players, and for a lot of the players we put in that, the pieces have superstars that they operate in orbit with, or they can help, who can carry their team. That is not the case for this NYCFC team. So they don't have the star power to carry them through bad performances. They don't have veteran experience to carry them through the ups and downs of a weird season. And for them, it's weirder than normal. Like, they don't have a home stadium, really. They move around. They've got all this bizarre stuff that happens. They're the only ones that plays at the time windows and on the schedule they play. Like, all this weird crap that occurs with them, they don't have a ton of experience to carry them through it. And then you add in the final piece, which is, okay, they've got a lot of potential talent. Can you make the system the star? Patrick Vieira was able to do that with more talent. We saw Dome Torrent be able to do that, but with more talent. Ronnie Dyla was able to do it to the highest extent and make it all the way to MLS Cup, or win MLS Cup. Yep. Nick Cushing has not brought that. And I think that's the frustration from fans. I don't think it's 100% on him. I don't think this is a great roster. I don't think there's a ton of vision of like how to build good MLS rosters right now for NYCFC from the CFG side coming all the way down. And you could say the same for Red Bulls. But I think you have reached a point where you've seen similar talent perform better in MLS for NYCFC in the past.
So my pushback on I totally agree on the star power stuff, right? On the experience side, I actually disagree. So like maybe some of the ages are younger, but a core. And Santi Rodriguez, he's a well-experienced player in this league. Like, that should be, maybe not like the system is a star and he's our de facto best attacker, right? He should be, I guess, a little bit more consistent. So even, like, I think he should be in this group, but even take him out. Keaton Parks, James Sands, Thiago Martins, Burke Reese. Like, that quartet, that should be what is driving them. They should never be conceding 5 goals. They should never be throwing away 2-0 leads. That should be the one thing, the best thing that this roster does. Matt Freese, again, like he doesn't have the experience. He's best goalkeeper in the league this year, man. Like, if not the best, then top 3. So going out that spine, this should never happen. And that's my disappointment, and that's my frustration with this team is that, yeah, like some of those players are younger, but like I think that they have plenty of experience around them. Like for sure, they don't have like a killer, somebody who's going to challenge for best 11 in the attack, and that is a big problem. But you can still they should be more successful than they are.
Yeah. I think a lot of that's fair. I think some of it's a little, listen, Thiago Martins is not the guy I'm building an MLS roster around. I'm not putting him in a convo with the best center backs we've seen in this league. He's probably in a combo with a lot of the best center backs this year, as we've talked about. It's been a little bit of a weak year. Matt Freese as well. Awesome. Great first year. That's great. He is not Matt Turner right now. Like, he has not proven it for 2 years, and he is not at that age level experience. Fine. But you are right. The 5-goal thing shouldn't happen. And the 8-game stretch should not occur with this team. From the fans I saw online, NYCFC, they had some wild comments about Cushing being out and all of that stuff. And I think the heat will be there, and I think the pressure will be there. I don't know that it will matter in the standings. Like, they are 2 points up on Charlotte. Charlotte are sinking tank right now. Toronto are not any more competitive, and the gap between them and Philadelphia and DC is too large to really be covered. So they're probably going to finish here, and it will probably come down to how they perform in the postseason and how they perform in the playoffs, which I do believe would line them up against Columbus, which has been a super entertaining and extremely unsuccessful matchup for NYCFC over the course.
Too soon to be doing the what would the matchup be? This is going to change 15 times.
Maybe these,
or if nobody picks up any points.
Yeah, the top 3 and the middle 3 of the East kind of feel pretty locked in. Which we should give our flowers here to Orlando.
Yes,
we talked on Tuesday and said, beat a playoff team, like beat someone good. They had back-to-back wins, which is awesome. They had done it against teams that were not going to make the postseason and were not in competitive space. They knocked off Charlotte at home 2-0. Facundo Torres scoring goals, creating chances. Charlotte has
was awesome.
Yeah, Charlotte has a ton of issues right now. They are very disconnected as a team. They also don't generate as many chances as they should. I talked a little bit about the way they're using wide players and stuff on the Tuesday show. But Orlando, 3 straight wins for them. Shutouts in all 3 as well, which is huge to see for this team. That was their strength over the last 2 years, it has faltered a bit as they've had to rotate center backs and try and find some more solid play in front of Gaese. They've gotten back there as well, and they've done so, I think, partially because the attack is more dangerous and it's taken a little bit of pressure off those guys.
Yeah, this was, again, so they've got, 7 wins in the last 9 games or whatever it is. They've been really good since Martin Ojeda has been used as the number 10 in this group. It's not as simplistic as that, but that's the biggest driving force. Though Martin Ojeda was very good in this game. That first goal, he assisted Facundo Torres. That was just a top quality moment from 2 designated players. And that's kind of the difference in attack for Charlotte right now. That's the difference in attack with NYCFC right now. Orlando had the track record of how well they were last year. They got better as the season went on. Again, it was really disappointing how they started this year because we hoped and thought that they were going to build that momentum into this year. They tried to bring in Luis Muriel. They had everything with the Duncan McGuire situation, reintegrating him to the team, bringing in Nico Ladero, trying to figure out, all right, how do the pieces all fit? What the best part about this team right now is they know who they are. They know where the best pieces fit. There is no more, hey, can we play Duncan McGuire and Luis Muriel together? Both of them are on the bench right now. Like Ramiro Enrique started. I know Duncan came on at halftime, and I would like to see Duncan from
Luis Muriel had the assist on Duncan McGuire's goal. They are best friends now. That's the key.
I know. What if we got a Luis Muriel redemption run over the rest of the season? If they did the Dragon Ball Z. So again, like I was a critical, or at least pointing out, like, hey, just let's be careful. Let's look at who they've beaten, right? Like, they can't dictate what the schedule is right now. Over the last 4 games, they have Columbus, Dallas, Philly, Cincy. Particularly those 3 Eastern Conference games, it's going to be really important to me because seeding is most important. Doesn't matter what the hell me and you say about, whoa, I don't know if they're really good or not. But, like, on top of seeding, I want to see what do you look like against bona fide playoff teams. And they play Cincy and Columbus, and let's see how it goes. I think that they are closer to that tier than Red Bulls, NYCFC, Charlotte. Before you start celebrating, that's not difficult to separate yourself from those 3 teams, right? I'm very curious to see how these last 4 games go because I'm back in on Orlando, and I really like this group, how it's founded right now, how the attack is maneuvering. Like, they have all the pieces, and let's see if they can continue this run against some better teams over the stretch.
Let's stay in the great state of Florida. The freest state.
You're Florida. The
freedom
land
state, I believe is what it said when I drove in here. We moved from Central Florida, is where I'm told Orlando is located, to Southeast Florida, which is where I'm told Miami is located. We had a segment that I created called Biggest Win for the Shield Race. The segment was eliminated within a week of me creating it because Miami has locked in. It is now going to be our tracker on Miami chasing the record for overall points in an MLS season. So right now, Miami are on 63 points. That is 10 points behind the New England Revolution, who set the record in 2021. We have played 29 games so far this season for Miami. So they have 5 games left. They need to pick up 11 points to set the record, 10 points to tie it. And they went in and got a draw against Atlanta United in what was like a ridiculous end-to-end fun 2-2 game between these 2 teams. I messaged in the Discord pretty early in this game, like 55th minute, and was like, the thing that's hard for me is I don't understand how Miami hangs on to some of these points that they had. And at that point, it was like, they're going to win this game, and they are completely open and exposed. And Atlanta had numbers breaks where they just chose, rather than playing the right pass or taking the space that's there, it was almost robotic motions of like, there's no way this space is here, so I have to hit a blind ball to the far post because that's what I should do in this moment. And there was a ton of that, even from Moranchuk, who was like hitting early through balls after he'd break through pressure. And it's like, bro, no one's defending you. Just keep driving and keep dribbling. But then he had the class moment, the goal, the curler. I messaged you and said, looked like Thiago Almada, just a little taller and more Russian on this one. But it's the exact,
little bit less sun.
It's the exact same quality and style of like, there is this small window that I could put this in. Mm-hmm. No one else can put it there. And the odds of me getting it there are low, and I'm still going to do it. And I think I'm still learning his style and how he sort of dictates the game and reacts to the game. Too. But that's pure class, and it was an unbelievable moment.
Yeah, that was his welcome to MLS moment. That was great. Like, these are the things that you want to see from him more than honestly even picking up a draw here. Like if they lost 2-1 and Miranchuk had that result or whatever, if they lost 3-2, if Miami came down and scored, that would be more important than the 1 point to me because everything they're doing moving forward revolves around, is he a really good signing or not? And like Thiago Almada as well, Almada played very well against Miami earlier this season. So Miranchuk is really just picking up where he left off. While we're here, look, you were patting yourself on the back. I hope your arm's okay. You really were going after yourself about the LA Galaxy take now that they lost. Do you remember when you unironically asked me, would you rather have Alexei Miranchuk or Pep Biel? Do you remember that?
I think the jury's still out.
What do you think now?
I think the conversation's still ongoing. Yeah.
Grow up. Never.
I'm sorry. Did Miranchuk not start for the team that just got smoked by Nashville at home? And then should have won this game? By the way, I know you say the points don't matter. They're 1 point out of the playoffs. If they had won this game 3-2, as they should have because of the chances they generated, they would be in a playoff spot today. So I'm just putting that out there and saying the jury's still out. We will deliberate. We will talk.
Good thing Pep Biel kept all those clean sheets for Charlotte in May. That was really good of him.
He's really been holding things together.
He's at Olympiacos.
He's the only one trying to hold things together in Charlotte.
Yeah,
Saba was good in this game as well. You're starting to see the connection and combination. There was a lot of moments where Daniel Rios is like, why are you playing me the ball right now? Like bounce passes with Miranchuk where he's like, get this off my foot. And there was late decision making, which I thought was a little bit of a struggle at times for this Atlanta team. They should have gotten that. They had chances to win. It would have been huge for them. They didn't. Miami hangs on 2-2. Messi and Luis Suarez come off the bench late on. They also are generating chances and creating big opportunities. A couple balls cleared off the line for both teams. And so this Miami team now, they are 11 points away with the final 5 games of the season. So they go to Yankee Stadium on Saturday. Then a week later, they host Charlotte. Then midweek, they go to Columbus. They follow that up with a trip to Toronto that weekend. Then you get the international break, and they finish the season at home to the New England Revolution on decision day. Do you have 11 points in there?
Yeah, I do. I think you have 4 wins with the drop being against Columbus, but I thought they were going to win this game against Atlanta. And to your point of I don't know how they're hanging on to all these points. Like, the other way, too, like, they were up 2-1, and Brad Guzan made a really nice save on Messi, and then I believe it was Amador who made a goal line clearance on Luis Suarez from 6 yards out. Like
with like he looked like something out of Les Mis. Amador. He looked like he was like in an old Civil War video and was like struggling through, but he played well.
Yeah. So like even like these are the fine margins where like again like Miami, like look, I said this about Portland, LA, in that this felt like just vibes, no tactics most of the game. Dude, this second half of this game was on drugs. This was I couldn't believe how many times that like there was like Miami lost the ball and there's 35 yards between 4 players in the back, maybe 1 defensive midfielder. Atlanta's going through. They play the ball to Edwin Mosquera, who's in acres of space, and then he just dribbles into a defender. And then Miami go, let's counter. And the first pass to try to break and enter into the attack, they lose it, and it's coming back in. I'm like, what in the hell am I watching? Is this FIFA? I got EAFC out my brain. Like, what? Like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't take my eyes off that game. I didn't want to watch it. I wanted to watch other games more because I've seen enough of Miami.
Yeah.
And Atlanta is what it is at this point. Like, I wanted to like really focus on Miranchuk. Other than that, I don't like this team. Whatever. Maybe they finish 9th. Maybe they don't. Like that. I don't think that's going to be super consequential. I couldn't take my eyes off this game.
So if you have Columbus penciled in as a loss, which I think a lot of people will, midweek at the second best team in the league, all of that, a team that has stood up and played well against you. The question is where the other points might be dropped or where they need to pick them up. I'm looking at Saturday, a midweek game. You are going to Yankee Stadium. Like, I don't understand in this scenario even risking Messi, but for sure from the start, I would throw Suarez in that conversation as well. Like, you've already won the Shield. I can get pushing for a points record. I think if you're going to do that, you do that at home against Charlotte, and you do that on the road, even against Toronto, then in this scenario on one of the worst fields in the league, coming off midweek, coming off his return last week, and he played like the full 90 minutes last week against Philadelphia. It just feels like a step too far for me.
Yeah, I understand you think, but like they didn't start in Atlanta. Sergio Busquets didn't make the trip. He got his rest, like a well-deserved rest. He was one of the guys who has been much more consistent in playing time than I thought he was going to be. So well done for him. But like all of their big stars rest. Like you look at that 11, it was even beyond that of how much rotation there was. So I think that they did that with like, hey, either Wednesday or Saturday, and I think that they said let's play Saturday. Don't know that as a fact, of course. We'll see what happens, but I'd be surprised if Messi didn't start 2 games in a row. Like again, like we were all pleasantly surprised that he went 90 minutes on the weekend. Like I think that shows you that he feels he's ready to be a regular here, like rather than just putting like the training, like rather than 60 minutes and then okay, we won't bring you to Atlanta and then we'll do it, like we'll build you back up. I think he's good, and I think he'd start, but again, that's no inside information. That's just my assumption.
Okay, I think from the outside, he wants to play, and Tata Martino is a madman and is like everyone should play all the time. Tata will play anyone anywhere.
Tata Thibodeau.
Like why did he play 90 minutes? It was just like not necessary.
Well, he's not exactly covering a ton of ground.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. It is an easier load on his body than for other people. I think this one's the dangerous one. In saying that, NYCFC, as we have said, have not won in 8 straight games playing at home. Let me add this little fact in here for you, because I wasn't thinking about this, and so I went and checked. And so the Revs, in 2021, they set the points record on the second to last game of the season in a victory over the Colorado Rapids. They finished out the year on decision day against Inter Miami and lost 1-0 to a Blaise Matuidi, John McCarthy-led Inter Miami squad. If the points record is set between 74 and 76 points, Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez and Tata Martino can thank John McCarthy for showing up and doing his job for that team. They beat the Revs 1-0 as Matuidi's goal, McCarthy with the shutout, and that is poetic justice.
Dude, this, again, you joked about fever dream of Inter Miami, like what all of that, like, listen to this 11 that they put out that day as under head coach Phil Neville. It's John McCarthy, Christian McCoon, Nico Figo, LGP, Lauren Gonzalez-Perez. Midfield, or like a 5 midfield, Breck Shea, Blaise Matuidi, Gregory, poor guy doing all the running here, Indy Vasilev, turns out to be a very good signing, Lewis Morgan, right wing back.
Indy Vasilev, Lewis Morgan, you're starting to put together a roster.
Julian Carranza when he was bad, if you remember that.
Stop.
And Roddy Pizarro up top.
This is a team that can make a playoff run. It is an absurd team.
Jay Chapman was on the bench. Kelvin Leardam. Like, this is Drake Calendar was benched for John McCarthy. I'm sorry, like that was too good to disregard as I'm just staring at this 11. That's how I want to spend the next 4 hours. I just want to look at this 11 and this roster and just let my mind go. And
the potential is that they are sitting on the verge of that history on the final game of the season. And on the flip side, you've got Brandon Bye, Andrew Farrell, Matt Polster, Carles Heel, Tommy McNamara. They all started that game for the Revs, who have the potential to potentially, with nothing to play for, protect that history. And that might be on Caleb Porter. That might be Caleb Porter's final job of the
Alamo.
Is to defend the Alamo and defend that history, because this is a Revs team that's not going to make the postseason. They were up 2-0 at home against CF Montreal last night, and they ended up tying 2-2. And the looks on their faces coming off the field at the end of that game was, you could feel like the dead man walking of, that may have been the last chance or the last hurrah, and it went through their fingers, and you could see them sense that coming off the field in Gillette.
Yeah, this was my submission for down bad of the week, New England Revolution. Up 2-0. That game was, oh my goodness, in front of, 400 people at Gillette Stadium on a Wednesday night. That was a tough one. Both of these teams were not good. You joked about it on Tuesday that like you were excited about what Montreal did and Caden Clark and all that, and you were like, doesn't matter. They're just going to have a completely new 11. And then they did exactly that. They were bad in the first half. I made it through, I think, 30 minutes, and because I hate myself, I put that game on my main screen, of course. And I was like, I'm tapping out. I'm gone. And then, like, I'm checking the Discord, which I had to, like, pull my, like, put your phone down and, like, pay attention to the screen you have up. Because the chat was so much more fun than watching New England Montreal, to be fair. And then all of a sudden it was 2-2. And it's just like, I got no juice on this, man. Like, you're up 2-0 at Montreal at home, and you can't see that out. Like, Esmir Baraterovic was very good in the
scored the second
35
goal.
minutes I watched. That goal was really good. He was lively every time he was on. Luca Langoni, he's looking like a good signing for me. Carlos Hill. I don't get it. That game should have been much more likely to be 5-0, maybe 5-1 because I don't trust them to keep a clean sheet, than it would be 2-2. And it's inexplicable. It's inexcusable. In that article where I did the underlying numbers, the expected goals and stuff, New England are dead last in expected goals. That's a fireable offense. You have Carlos Hill. How are you dead last in expected? He alone is worth, not being dead last in expected goals. I don't know how you fix it. I don't know what's going on. The vibes are very bad in New England right now. The fans, again, and in our Discord, I was enjoying the nihilism and enjoying all the jokes. That was, I think, my favorite part of the game was the self-deprecating jokes in the Discord.
So the comeback starts with a Tom Pierce free kick from 35 or so yards out that should be played in as a cross off sort of the right side of the box, but somewhat central, being struck on goal and going in because Ivicic is off on his right-hand side trying to organize his defenders and organize things. Those are mental mistakes bad teams make. That is a team that's not engaged, that's not locked in. And so you have Caleb Porter coming off the whole, the ref screwed us and all this stuff. One, in that, I went on a rant coming off that being oh, cool, so we're just going to call out everyone's mistakes. Awesome. You probably shouldn't concede a goal off a free kick from 35 to 40 yards out in a non-dangerous area. Tom Pierce struck it pretty well, so shout out to Tom Pierce for continuing to be a left-footed savant every 4 to 5 games when Laurent Courtois lets him play and rotates him back into the lineup. But that is a losing thing to occur for a team that now won't make the postseason in New England. Let's talk about another down bad of the week here. Let's go to Sebastian Driussi, who was unavailable for Austin. They went on the road and they were able to go up 1-0 against LAFC and then not be able to continue it. And they ended up tying 1-1. They are currently the last team out of the playoffs. During the game, Sebastian Driussi at home is retweeting fans saying, trade Seba, fire Josh. I think it's time to move on from Driussi and find a decent 10 in the market. Harrison Reese here. It's great to see how well we can play without the fraud Driussi crying and making dumb trick passes that kill attacking buildup. I don't even understand what he's doing there. Is he making them look stupid, or is he doing that at his own team?
I don't know. What goes through the mind? I was putting on this maybe it's time to log off for this week. Sebastian Driussi, the easy winner. So he retweeted that. He's since unretweeted them, but my friend, the internet is forever, as you well know, that I don't understand the point. Because the first, when I saw the most recent one was, it had fire Josh in it. I was like, yeah, that's really, and I was like, oh no, it was Driussi sucks and fire. It was more about Driussi sucks, and that was all the other ones. Very odd to me. I have no idea. I don't know the motivations there. Did he think that was better than replying at a guy? Maybe? Is that the thought process? I'm just trying to figure it out.
Eric Goodman, the one who I saw screenshot this and tweeted out, who's a producer and sports writer in Austin, followed up by saying a reminder that Driussi told John Arnold, who does a great job and is one of the best, earlier this year how he misses the harsh criticism from fans that he has experienced in Argentina. So if that was his problem, was fans were being too harsh, then that's a whole nother direction he's choosing to go in there. Enough. Yeah.
Don't kink shame him. Let him, if that's how he enjoys his life,
that's what
tell
he
me
needs.
I suck.
Yeah. And by not making the postseason, he will probably solidify that for his team and everyone else involved. Let's go to who's back of the week, the bounce back win or bounce back performance. There's a few teams or people you can put in here. Tom, did you have any one that you felt really good about?
No, it's nice to see Alan Velasco. Because we've talked about several of the games. I'm gonna go micro view rather than macro view. Alan Velasco being back and scoring, that was nice.
It was awesome. So he's played, I think, twice for 10 minutes off the bench. He played the full 45 in the second half off the bench. He scored the penalty, which they got late on in this game, a bit of a gift. It was fun to watch him, Jesus Ferreira, Pedro Musa, and Paul Arriola be out there on the field. This is a team with no center backs Very little cover in central midfield consistently. But if that attacking 4 or 5 can be what we thought they could be and what they were hoping to build around Alan Velasco, it could be really cool. I am saying they are the only team outside the playoffs in the West that have a shot to get in. And I think Dallas is actually going to make a run at this.
I don't. I don't. Like, they're 5 points off. They would have to climb 5 points. I see the argument. Logically, it makes sense. Logically, I would loosely agree. Like, hey, don't rule it out, right? Be optimistic. It's sunny outside. It has been 2 seasons of me looking at Dallas in the preseason saying this team is ready to take a step. All these pieces make sense. This is okay. Last year they weren't very good, but whatever. Like, Peter Musa, he looked great. He makes a lot of sense with Ferreira and Velasco when he comes back, and Ariel and everything else. And then they've been bad all year. And then even with Peter Lucine, like, they've been better. And then even when it like looked like, hey, maybe they're gonna pick up a little bit of momentum, then they're dropping points again, right? Like, I'm not doing it again. I'm just not.
They would have to chase Minnesota, who fell 2-1 to Cincinnati after I said nice things about Minnesota, so thank you for that. Minnesota, Yuya Kubo, awesome goal for him as well. Almost had 2. Looked really strong in that game. It's going to be tough for Dallas down the stretch. They host LAFC. They host Orlando. They travel to San Jose and Portland, and they host KC. So 2 teams in there that are not playoff teams, but they're going to have to make up a ton of space. They will have to win 1 or 2 of those other games against good teams. It seems somewhat unlikely. As I said, they play against LAFC this weekend coming up in Major League Soccer. Full match day on Saturday, 1 game on Sunday as well. Philadelphia against DC United is that Sunday game. I don't know why, for no reason. Maybe so that Eagles fans don't have to watch the Eagles play again. And they just throw it out there. Every once in a while, I've been doing this. NWSL has back-to-back Monday night games. And I'm like, I don't care. I have no idea why this is happening either way. Some of the big ones for this weekend, I think to circle, we talked to NYC Miami. Columbus hosting Orlando. That's a playoff rematch from last year. That is a good place to test all of what you talked about with Orlando. Are their lines cleaner defensively? Are they able to keep the game in front of them? Are their attacking pieces able to shine in a game in which you have to take advantage of your chances? Because Columbus will score. You will not shut this team out. Columbus able to get a pretty simple 2-0 win over TFC on the road this weekend. So that's one of the ones that stands out to me. Copa Tejas in there as well. Austin against Houston. Houston didn't get the win against Vancouver. They were really good for 45 minutes. To go up 1-0, they were fun. They were dangerous. Griffin Dorsey's flying all over the place. Ponce missed what should have been a goal. He scores the penalty, but that's sort of that line that they're on right now. You need him to perform in those moments. He misses the big chance. And in the end, they get a 1-1 draw against a competitive team, but it could have been 3 points for them if he puts it away.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about this game because it wasn't a ton of fun. I was looking forward to that one a lot. And for who's back of the week, it should have been Brian White. New Jersey Mario Gomez back from after his concussion. He scores because of course he does. All he does is score goals, bro. So that was good resiliency from Vancouver to fight back. Dude, Houston played just beautiful soccer, man. Again, the fact that they are committed to and executing this without Hector Herrera the way that they were at the beginning of the season, like, if there's good soccer aesthetic karma, this team would be getting more breaks. Like, I still think that they're very good. I still think that they have room to grow in terms of that execution and putting it all together in points and goals and controlling games even more. But this was a fun matchup. Again, these are 2 good teams. I would say I'd feel very safe in saying these are 2 good teams. Vancouver's another team that I'm looking forward to watching how they evolve over the rest of the season. What is Stuart Armstrong, again, due to this team? We talked about that Tuesday, so I'm not going to dive too much further back into it. But yeah, that was, again, Portland, LA, and Vancouver, Houston from Wednesday were the games I was looking forward to most. And again, it wasn't a bad game. It just wasn't, you get 1-1 draw on a Wednesday, ho-hum. And again, 2 good teams just playing like good teams.
Yeah, a little unfortunate not to see Armstrong in this last game just because you want to see more of it.
Yeah.
And you want to see what it looks like. And, they play the Galaxy this weekend, and this is like a whole different ball game for the Galaxy, right? Vancouver's going to be compact and direct and try and hit in transition. I think that could be really dangerous, but you've got to be efficient with your chances there because the Galaxy are going to create theirs. Armstrong playing as a second forward and all of that, that's an interesting option. I can't imagine Brian White's available to start, so there's probably some minutes there to move around. Shout out to Fafa Picault, by the way, because he had the assist. He's been really good for this Vancouver team with a few injuries where he's filled in either as the 9 or the second forward underneath. He's played a little wing back for this group as well. He's been a big part of their ability to turn this season around. So that Houston-Austin game, an interesting one for Copa Tejas this weekend. RSL Portland, I would say the other big one. By the way, Vancouver Galaxy, that's Saturday night, as you could expect. But I'd say RSL Portland, the other big one.
I thought that we were going to spend all this time previewing San Jose for St. Louis.
Yeah, we're going to dig in pretty heavily there.
Chicago, 7:30. Pre-game for St. Louis at 10:30. There's nothing better to do on a Saturday night on the face of the earth.
You really had the exclamation point to just hammer that point home. On that note,
walk into the ocean.
I'm just gonna let it rip. I think that's the end of the show. We're gonna end on a high. We gotta end there. Tom, it has been fun. It is always a pleasure. Thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you to everyone for being here live as well. We will be back, of course, next week. The weekend recap I will come out with Monday morning, and then we will be back on Tuesday to break down all things that happened over the course of the weekend in Major League Soccer. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.